I guess if you'd asked me 20 years ago what my life would look like at 40, I would have painted you a pretty simple picture, nothing flashy. Just a house I built myself, a family that didn't need fixing, and maybe a garage with a decent project car that didn't leak oil on the floor. I never wanted much more than that. I'm Tim Walker, born and raised in a town where gas stations doubled as diners and everybody knew who bought what truck and when. I was the quiet type in high school, more into building computers than making noise. Then Shauna happened. Freckled nose, wild hair, one of those girls who looked like trouble but carried herself like someone who'd already seen too much. We met at 16. By 18, we were parents. No fairy tale there. Just a scared boy and a tougher-than-she-looked girl staring down a pregnancy test in the back of her dad's beat-up Toyota. We didn't run. We didn't fight it. We did the damn thing. Maddie was born in August, a week before my first semester at community college was supposed to start. I dropped out before I ever stepped inside a classroom. Picked up every side job I could find. Plumbing, fixing old laptops, welding scrap into art I sold at farmers markets. I married Shauna 6 months later. Cheap rings, courthouse wedding, no regrets. But love like that, it doesn't survive unless it grows up with you. And we didn't. Not at the same speed anyway. By the time I was 24, I had taught myself how to code, and I launched a tiny gaming company out of our garage. Other Gaming. Sounded mysterious. It took 3 years, 2 failed games, and 1,000 unpaid hours before our first hit. After that, the money came fast. Offices in Sydney, conferences in LA, emails from investors and influencers. I was still Tim from back home, but now I was founder and CEO. Problem is, when you're building something that big, something else gets neglected. With Shauna, the love turned into friendship. Respect stayed. Affection faded. There were no screaming matches, no scandals. Just 2 people raising a daughter and realizing they were happier apart. So we split. Clean. Civil. Quiet. We shared custody. Shared birthdays. Even shared that stupid Christmas decoration Maddie made in kindergarten. The one with the glitter falling off. Shauna remarried 2 years later to Rick. A good guy, real steady, family lawyer type. I was happy for her. Honestly. But you don't realize how lonely success can be until you walk into your 6-bedroom home and no one's waiting at the top of the stairs. Then came Bridget. She was different. That's how I explain it to myself now. Younger by a good chunk, bright-eyed, sharp-tongued, and flirty in that way that makes an aging man feel like maybe he's not done just yet. She came on as a marketing consultant for the company. Freelance. A few meetings, a few drinks, and before I knew it, she was waking up in my bed like she belonged there. At first, it was like fire, real heat, real passion. I told myself I deserved it. After all those years grinding, sacrificing, losing sleep and missing birthdays, hadn't I earned a woman who looked at me like I was the damn son? We got married a year after we met. Big wedding this time. Beachside in Byron Bay. Designer dress. Fancy hors d'oeuvres with names I still can't pronounce. Bridget made it all feel like a good life. Like I was finally in the right chapter. But something always felt off. I can't describe it any better than that. It was in the way she hesitated when Maddie asked questions. Or how she was always busy when my old friends dropped by. She never liked Shauna, though she was polite enough in public. And she always had a reason to be gone. Client calls, weekend retreats, networking dinners. Still, I chalked it up to generational differences. She was ambitious. She liked the spotlight. I liked the workshop. We were just different. It wasn't until that Tuesday afternoon at Shauna's that the walls finally cracked. Maddie had forgotten her school folder at my place, and I offered to drop it off. Shauna was home early. She greeted me with that look. Eyebrows furrowed, mouth tight, the way she used to look when I forgot to pay the electric bill. "Can we talk?" she asked. I sat on her porch, the same one I built with leftover lumber a decade ago. She brought out a manila envelope. No words, just set it on the table between us like it was a dead animal. "What's this?" I asked. "Bridget," she said. I didn't reach for it, just stared. My stomach turns in that way before you hear something you can't unhear. Shauna folded her hands. I didn't go digging. Rick got a call from a colleague, someone handling a paternity dispute. Though the names sounded familiar, I told him not to tell me anything unless it mattered. And it mattered. I opened the envelope. Inside, photos, dates, receipts, a USB stick, her with him, Brad something, half naked, laughing, documents outlining a lease agreement in Brisbane, ultrasound photos dated before Bridget and I had even tried for kids. I didn't say anything, didn't curse, didn't cry, just nodded once and slid it back into the envelope. Shauna put her hand on mine. I'm sorry. Rick came out, stood by the doorway, silent but firm, like a man who knew how fast things could spiral and was ready to stop it if needed. She said you couldn't have kids, Shauna added softly. I looked out at the ocean. Wind was picking up. The waves rolled in steady, like they always did, like they would no matter how much your world got flipped. I didn't want more kids, I said, voice even, but I wanted the truth. Well, she said, you got it, and I did. I just wasn't sure what to do with it yet. Not then, but I would. And this time, I wouldn't let love blind me. This time, I'd burn the whole damn blueprint and build something better from the ashes. I kept that envelope shut for 3 days. Didn't open it again. Didn't touch it. Just left it on the workbench in my garage next to a busted drone and a half-sanded guitar body I never finished. I'd walk past it with a wrench in my hand, pretending I had more important things to do than stare down the ruins of my second marriage. But I knew. I already knew. And the thing that ate at me wasn't just the betrayal, it was the performance. Bridget had been all in on the role. The doting wife. The sexy, ambitious cheerleader for my work. The woman who kissed my neck while telling me I'd be a great father again. She had played me like a damn cello, and I was too proud to hear the strings snapping. On the 4th morning, I got up before sunrise, made coffee, and finally opened the envelope again. This time, I didn't flinch. I made myself look at every photo, read every date stamp, watch the grainy video of her in a hotel room with Brad, laughing about the timing of conception, mocking me for being so easy to convince. I just told him it was a miracle, she giggled, that we tried once and boom, pregnant. He looked like he was about to cry. Brad laughed. You think he'll actually raise it? Of course he will, she said. Tim wants to believe I'm the best thing that ever happened to him. He needs to believe it. I paused the video, not because I couldn't handle it, but because I could. That was the worst part. It didn't break me. It just clarified things. She didn't love me. She loved the image of what I could do for her. The man who could build empires, pay for penthouses, and nod politely at fundraisers. She saw me as a stage, not a partner. That afternoon, I went back to Shauna's. Maddie was at volleyball practice, and Rick was home early from court. They were sitting at the kitchen table when I walked in, holding that envelope like it was radioactive. Shauna stood up first. Did you watch it? I nodded. Twice. Rick motioned for me to sit. There's more if you want it. I can subpoena text logs, travel records, medical history. No, I said, shaking my head. This is enough. Shauna poured coffee without asking. That's one of those things that never leaves. She always knew when I needed silence and when I needed caffeine. Rick slid a single folder across the table. Then let's get started. Inside were the papers. Divorce petition, property division draft, temporary financial freezes. All ready for me to sign. You did this already? I asked. Rick shrugged. Shauna told me not to wait. Shauna crossed her arms. She thought she married a mark. She thought she could take advantage of a good man because he wouldn't hit back. I won't, I said. Not the way she expects. Rick leaned forward. That's the best part. You don't have to. Over the next few hours, we laid it all out. Bridget had signed a prenup, her idea, ironically, when she still believed I'd be more useful single. It had a fidelity clause. The kind people laughed at, but Rick insisted I keep in there, just in case. She never took it seriously. Guess she should have. We froze the joint accounts, changed the access codes on the house, redirected her corporate card privileges to a burner card with a $500 limit. Rick contacted a server. And just like that, I was no longer the man begging for answers. I was the one preparing the consequences. Later that night, I sat out on my back deck with a glass of whiskey and listened to the cicadas grind in the dark. Maddie was home, curled up on the couch watching reruns of Friends for the 100th time. I hadn't told her yet. Wouldn't, not until it was time. I thought about how I had given Bridget the best years I had left. I had believed in her, and now I had to unmake every promise we built together. But I wasn't going to cry over it. I'd done my crying when Shauna and I ended, back when love still meant loss. This time it meant war. The difference was I knew the terrain. I didn't need revenge to feel better. I didn't want to scream or throw things or torch her clothes like some dramatic teenager. That kind of chaos only feeds them. No, what I wanted was silence. Final, total silence. I wanted her to come home and find the locks changed, to dial her code and watch the gate deny her entry, to stand there in her little heels, confused, maybe angry, and then realize, bit by bit, that everything she built on lies was already gone. And when she finally called me, voice trembling, trying to lie her way back into favor, I'd answer like a man who no longer recognized her voice. I didn't sleep that night, not from rage, from clarity, anger that hot burns off quickly, but the kind that sits in your chest like a stone. That's the kind you sharpen. I wasn't out for blood. I wasn't going to scream, break things, or blow up her car. That's what she'd expect. What people like Bridget hope for so they can flip the story. Play the victim. Say, see? He was unstable. No, I'd give her none of that. I'd give her consequences. It started with the USB drive. I plugged it into the laptop I kept in my office, an older one, never connected to the cloud, used mostly for old code backups. Safe, isolated. That drive had everything. Audio files, messages, more video. Some sent by Bridget herself to Brad. Private Snapchats that weren't so private. I didn't even know you could recover some of those. But Rick's contact sure did. I watched her say it with her own lips. Once I'm pregnant, I'm golden. He'll never question it. He wants to believe I'm some miracle. She laughed. Brad laughed. They kissed. Later in the video, she said, "He's too soft. Still in love with his ex-wife. Doesn't even see it. I can mold him. He's already let me cut off half his friends." I paused it. She was wrong. I wasn't soft. I was loyal. Big difference. The only reason I didn't tear into her the moment I found out was because Maddie was still in the next room watching TV, and I was the kind of father who knew when to pick his battles. I spent the next 2 hours typing out instructions. A hit list, not of people but of access points. Bank accounts, passwords, property deeds. Everything Bridget had her fingers in. I'd been careful with my assets over the years, but love makes you lazy. That night I got alert. I called Rick the next morning. "Already in motion," he said. "She'll be served by Friday." I called Shauna after that. "Are you doing okay?" she asked. "Define okay. You eating?" "No." "Sleeping?" "Barely." "Plotting silent, bloodless revenge?" "Yeah." She laughed. "There's my Tim." That afternoon, she came over with a cardboard box. Said it was Bridget's things. Apparently, Bridget had left a lot of her personal crap at Shauna's the last time she picked up Maddie. Real smooth move, making yourself comfortable in the ex-wife's home. I opened it. Inside were books, toiletries, one of those obnoxiously expensive scarves she wore to fake old money vibes, and a card addressed to Maddie with no stamp, never mailed, just for show. Shauna stood beside me as I stared at it. "She never cared about Maddie," I muttered. "She cared about you caring about Maddie," Shauna replied. That was the tool. It landed like a gut punch. But she was right. That night, I made dinner for Maddie, just the two of us. Tacos, extra guac. She didn't know what was coming, but she sensed the shift. She asked about Bridget, and I told her the truth. Not all the details, but enough. "That's not your fault," I said. "She's a grown woman who makes choices. You're not responsible for any of this." Maddie nodded, holding back tears. "I never liked how she looked at you." That was it. That was all she needed to say. The next morning, I changed the locks. canceled Bridget's credit card, pulled her access from the joint savings, transferred the Tesla she drove into my business's name. It was leased through the company anyway, something she didn't realize because she never read the paperwork. Every detail mattered now. Every brick had to be pulled from the foundation before she realized the house was collapsing. By Wednesday, Rick sent me the final draft of the divorce filing. He'd attached everything: evidence, timeline, breach of the prenup, and a request for emergency injunction to freeze marital assets. "Want to add the pregnancy fraud to the file?" he asked. I hesitated. "Only if it comes to that," I said, because if she really was pregnant with Brad's baby and planning to dump it on me, then we'd go nuclear. But I wanted her to bury herself first. That night, Bridget texted me, "Running late. Flight delayed. Should be home Thursday. Love you." I stared at the screen. Funny how easily lies slide off the tongue when someone thinks they've won. No response. Just deleted it. Thursday would come soon enough. Thursday came. She pulled up around 11:20 a.m., a day earlier than expected. I was watching from the upstairs office window, coffee in hand, Maddie already at school. Bridget stepped out of the Tesla, technically now mine, wearing that smug little walk like she'd just sealed a big deal in Paris, not faked a trip to her mother's. She paused at the gate, tried the code, did it again. Nothing. I watched her frown deepen, her thumb hovering in disbelief. I could see her mouth moving, probably calling herself stupid for mistyping. She tried a few more combinations. Then she pulled out her phone and tapped something in. The gate didn't budge. She turned toward the camera over the gatepost. I imagined the confusion twisting in her chest into something darker. Panic. The kind of panic a manipulator feels when the mirror finally cracks. Then the process server stepped out of a parked Camry across the street. He was smooth, mid-40s, looked like someone's friendly uncle from church. Walked up holding a manila envelope in one hand and a clipboard in the other. He called her name once, calm and clear. "Bridget and Walker?" She nodded automatically, confused. "You've been served." He handed her 3 documents: the divorce petition, the property freeze notification, and the temporary restraining order pending a hearing. She didn't move for a full 10 seconds. Then she turned toward the house and dialed my number. I picked up on the second ring. "Tim." Her voice was already trembling. "What the hell is going on? Can't get in. Some guy he just gave me papers. What is this?" I let her sit in the silence for a beat. Then, "You're not coming back here, Bridget." She started talking fast, rapid-fire nonsense. "Is this some kind of prank? Because I swear to God, if Shauna's behind this." Shauna didn't fake a pregnancy. The words hit her like a punch. I could hear it in her breathing. What are you talking about? I am pregnant." "Then take a test," I said coldly. "Right now. On video. I'll send you a list of labs I trust." "Why would I?" "Because if you are, the child's not mine." She started sobbing. But it wasn't grief. It was exposure. "You don't mean that," she whispered. "I mean every word," I said. "You manipulated me. You lied to me. And you planned to pin someone else's baby on me like I'm some idiot in a sitcom." "No, Tim, please. This isn't. Can we just talk? Please, face to face." I love you." That last line came out like a script she hadn't rehearsed well enough. "You don't love me. You loved the name, the lifestyle, the way it felt when people said Mrs. Walker. But you didn't love me. Because if you did, you wouldn't have laughed about trapping me with a pregnancy while half-naked in a hotel room with Brad." Her breath caught. "I saw the video," I added. "All of it." She broke completely, screamed something about misunderstandings, and that wasn't supposed to be recorded. The voice cracked into raw panic. I stayed silent. When she finally stopped, I said, "You're going to get another envelope soon. It'll list everything that's yours. Not much, but you'll get to keep your dignity if you walk away quietly." "I have nowhere to go," she sobbed. "You should have thought of that when you laid in someone else's bed and laughed about ruining mine." Then I hung up, didn't say goodbye, didn't wait for her reply, Downstairs, the silence was thick. No drama, no shouting, just the quiet strength of a man who finally saw clearly and had no more reason to pretend. I poured another cup of coffee. Outside, Bridget was still standing at the gate, crying and pacing, calling someone. Maybe Brad, maybe her sister, maybe no one at all. I didn't watch for long. She wasn't my concern anymore. Let the lies starve out there. 2 weeks passed. I'd like to say things quieted down, but lies don't rot quietly. Bridget tried everything. Tears, emails, fake apologies, even a staged visit to Shauna claiming she just wanted to return Maddie's necklace. She was spiraling and I wasn't biting. Rick's legal team had the restraining order rolling. All I had to do was stay the course and protect what mattered, Maddie. That Saturday, the weather was clear, bright, and stupidly peaceful. Maddie and I went down to the beach like we always used to before the drama. She brought her volleyball, I brought a worn paperback and a cooler. No phones, no tension, just sand, waves, and my kid. She was laughing, like genuinely laughing again. For the first time in weeks, it gave me something I hadn't felt in a while. Stillness. Then I saw him, coming down from the bluff, shirt off, arms swinging like a man who didn't walk into situations. He stormed through them. Brad. Broad-shouldered, red-faced, the kind of guy who always looked like he was moments away from hitting drywall. And he was charging straight toward me. I stood up before he reached us. He didn't waste a second. No warning. No words. Just a fist to the side of my head. Everything went sideways. I hit the sand hard. The next punch came fast, gut shot. Ribs cracked. My vision blurred. I heard Maddie scream, "Get off my dad." I rolled trying to push up, but he kicked me hard. Right in the ribs again. I tasted blood. The world spun. Then I saw Maddie, this brave, stubborn girl, shoving him with both hands, screaming for help, throwing handfuls of sand at his face. She didn't run. She fought. Brad swatted her away like a fly, but it gave me just enough time to crawl out of reach. I reached for the cooler, grabbed the heavy steel thermos I'd packed with ice water and swung it wildly. Connected with something, his leg, maybe. He stumbled. People started yelling. A dog barked. Someone was calling 911. Brad looked around, realized he was now the center of attention. And just like that, the coward in him kicked in. He bolted, sprinted toward the dunes and vanished into the trees like the gutless piece of trash he was. I laid there, every breath a lightning bolt to my ribs, sand in my eyes. Maddie crouched beside me, crying and holding my hand like she was the parent now. "Dad?" she whispered, voice shaking. "Stay with me. I'm not going anywhere," I rasped. "Promise." An ambulance came. I don't remember much of the ride. Just sirens, pain, the sound of Maddie arguing with a cop who wanted to take her statement. They told me later I had 2 broken ribs and a punctured lung. 3 days in the hospital. The first thing I saw when I woke up was Shauna sitting in the corner, arms crossed, eyes bloodshot. She didn't speak right away, just stared at me like she was trying to hold herself together for someone else's sake. Then Rick came in. He looked like a man who'd been preparing for this moment his whole life. Cool, methodical, terrifyingly calm. "They picked him up 6 hours after the attack," he said. "Video footage from the lifeguard tower, multiple witnesses, your injuries. Slam dunk." I tried to nod, winced. "He hurt Maddie?" Shauna shook her head. "No. Scared her, but she's okay. She's strong, Tim. You should have seen her. She didn't back down." I swallowed hard. That pride cut deeper than the pain. Rick placed a folder on my tray. "You rest. We'll handle the legal side." I didn't say much. Didn't need to. The silence spoke for me. So did the machines tracking my heart rate and blood oxygen like I was a broken-down machine in a repair shop. That night, Maddie came in. She sat beside me, curled up like she used to when she was little, and whispered, "He's never getting near us again, right? Not if I have anything to do with it." She laid her head on my chest, gently, and we just stayed like that, wrapped in the kind of bond no lie could ever fake. I'd taken a beating, but I wasn't broken. I was waking up. I wasn't expecting anything romantic, Not after everything. After the beating, the betrayal, and the court dates that followed, my idea of healing was grilled steak, power tools, and maybe a fishing trip that ended in silence and cheap whiskey. Love? That wasn't even on the damn whiteboard. So when Maddie insisted on throwing a birthday barbecue to cheer Dad up, I figured it'd be a handful of her friends, Shauna and Rick, a cake, and maybe one of those stupid inflatable balloons that made me look older than I was. What I didn't expect was Lily. She showed up with Rick's niece, clutching a bag of lemonade bottles and wearing a sundress that looked like it hadn't seen sunlight in years. Her hair was tied up, simple. No makeup, no show. Just a quiet woman holding herself like she didn't trust the ground beneath her. Maddie was the first to notice her. "Who's that?" she whispered. "Lily," Shauna answered. "Rick's niece. Moved back from Brisbane." Long story. There was something in her tone, respect, maybe? Pity? I wasn't sure, but I recognized the posture right away. Lily was a woman who'd been through something. You don't stand that stiff, hold eye contact that carefully, unless you've learned to measure every room for danger. She mostly kept to herself at first. Sat by the pool, legs dipped in the water, sipping from a red cup and watching everyone with eyes that didn't miss a thing. But she laughed. Once. At something Maddie said, and it changed the whole temperature of the backyard. Later, after the sun dipped and the grill cooled, I wandered over to check on her. "Lily, right?" I asked. She nodded. "Tim, you know who I am?" She looked at me sideways. "You're the guy who took a punch and didn't throw one back." I cracked a small smile. "Didn't have time. You had time. You just didn't want to waste it." I stared at her for a second. That was accurate. Maddie, of course, couldn't resist the moment. She ran by, tripped over her own sandals, and elbowed Lily's back. Lily squealed and fell in, fully clothed, red cup and all. The splash was massive, and for a second, everything paused, then burst into laughter. I offered my hand to help her out, but she grabbed it and yanked me in. I hit the water hard, fully dressed, boots and all, sputtering and cursing. "You owe me dry socks," I muttered, slicking back my hair. "You owe me a new cup," she fired back, and just like that, something cracked open. We swam for a few minutes, treading water and tossing jabs. Light, easy, real. When I climbed out, I noticed Shauna watching me from the patio. She raised her glass, approval, but with a warning. She didn't have to say it. "Not another Bridget." I got it. Over the next few weeks, Lily and I talked. Nothing heavy. She came by for dinner once. Burned the garlic bread, but made the best roasted chicken I'd had in years. We sat on the porch, listening to cicadas and old classic rock, drinking lukewarm beers and not rushing a damn thing. She told me about her ex, the bruises, the therapist, the fear, the slow rebuild. I told her about mine, the lies, the video, the way love can turn into a weapon when someone doesn't respect it. She didn't flinch, didn't pity me either, just nodded, then asked, "You still believe in good women?" I answered without thinking, "I believe in strong ones." She looked away, whispered, "Good, because I'm not soft." Neither am I. That night, when she kissed me goodbye, it wasn't desperate or sweet. It was a test, a signal, something careful, and I kissed her back. Not because I needed to feel wanted, but because I finally saw someone who saw me. Peace never lasts long when someone like Bridget still thinks she has a seat at the table. By now, she'd lost access to everything. My house, my finances, her dignity. But the one thing she hadn't lost was her delusion. And delusion is dangerous when cornered. She still believed she had power. That a look, a scream, a threat would be enough to claw her way back into relevance. She waited until Lily was alone. It was a Wednesday, mid-morning. Lily had swung by my place to drop off some forms from Rick. Something about closing the final filing from the court. I was at a supplier meeting, Maddie was at school, and the house was empty except for Lily, the quiet hum of the AC, and the ticking of a wall clock I hadn't replaced since Shauna moved out. Bridget rang the bell like she owned the place. Lily opened the door and stood there, calm as a statue. Bridget pushed her way inside before a word was said. "Where is he?" she hissed. Lily didn't step back. Gone. Like you should be. Bridget looked her up and down. Slow, ugly, calculating. So this is what he replaced me with? God, you look like a rehab ad. Lily didn't blink. And you look like a lawsuit waiting to happen. Bridget snorted. You think you've won? Please. He's still legally my husband. Not anymore. Lily cut in. The divorce finalized last night. That shut her up for a beat. Then the clause came out. He'll get bored of you. Once your sob story runs out. Do men like him? They don't stick with damaged women. He'll come crawling back once he realizes you're just another. The slap came fast. Not from Lily. From Bridget. She struck her across the face. Open palm. Full venom. But Lily didn't cry. She didn't yell. She smiled. Then she hit back. One solid punch to the chin that dropped Bridget to one knee. Nothing wild. Nothing chaotic. Just a woman who'd had enough and refused to bleed for someone else's drama. Bridget shrieked and lunged. But Lily had already dialed. By the time Bridget tried to stagger back to her feet, sirens were on the way. Rick's contact at the station responded personally. Assault, trespassing, violation of restraining order. It was all caught on the security cams I'd installed after the Brad incident. Bridget was cuffed in my driveway, screaming about setups and conspiracies. I got the call on my way back. By the time I arrived, Lily was sitting on the couch, ice pack on her cheek, Maddie beside her with a fierce protective scowl. You okay? I asked. Lily nodded. She's worse off. Shauna arrived minutes later with Rick in tow. She looked at Lily, looked at Maddie, then looked at me. You picked better this time, she said. That night I made Lily dinner. Steak, garlic potatoes, wine we didn't finish. Her cheek was already swelling purple, but she wore it like a badge of honor. She wanted to see me break, she said. Wanted to watch me shake. She doesn't know how to handle people who don't fold. I don't fold, Lily whispered. I know. She laid her hand over mine. Tim, I'm not Shauna, and I'm definitely not Bridget. I've got scars. I've got baggage. I've got a fuse that's shorter than it should be some days. I looked her in the eye. You've got fire, and you know how to use it. She smiled. Are you sure you want that in your life? I want the truth, even when it's messy. And she nodded, because that's what she was. Messy, honest, and stronger than any woman I'd ever met. The kind who doesn't just survive storms. She rebuilds after them. The doctor looked like he'd seen a ghost. He pulled off his glasses, glanced between me and Lily, and finally said, You might want to sit down. I didn't sit. I stood with my arms crossed, the way a man does when he's been through enough to know panic never helps. Lily, on the other hand, was already grinning. It's triplets, isn't it? The doctor blinked. Yes. She laughed. Not a nervous chuckle, but a full-bodied laugh that echoed through the exam room. I just stared at the monitor, where 3 little blips flickered like tiny beacons. 3. Not 1. Not 2. 3. Connor, Adam, and Jesse. They didn't have names yet, of course, but that's who they'd become. We argued about names for weeks. Lily wanted classic. I wanted strong. Maddie vetoed anything she couldn't picture yelling across a football field. Shauna and Rick sent us a giant baby basket labeled, Good luck sleeping ever again. Truth was, I didn't care about sleep. Not anymore. When Lily went into labor, it was chaos. The birth plan went out the window before we even got to the car. 1 minute she was yelling about her overnight bag. The next she was crushing my hand in the back seat while Maddie timed contractions. She gave birth like she lived, focused, fierce, refusing to break. And when I held those boys for the first time, something shifted in me. Not like it had with Maddie, when I was barely old enough to shave. This time I wasn't scared. I wasn't uncertain. I was grounded, solid. The boys came out tiny, loud, and red-faced. Fighters just like their mother. Lily cried, exhausted but radiant. I kissed her forehead and whispered, You did it. She opened her eyes and whispered back, We did. Bringing them home was another story. Bottles, diapers, crying in shifts. crying in unison. Lily swears in 3 languages. Me learning how to burp babies while half asleep with a pacifier stuck to my shirt. But we laughed. We survived. Maddie turned into the ultimate big sister. Sleep-deprived, sarcastic, but always there. She built cribs, rocked them to sleep, even sang old lullabies Shauna used to hum when she was a baby. Shauna, by the way, came over with pre-cooked meals and practical advice. Rick installed baby monitors and upgraded the home security without being asked. The village stepped in. Bridget, gone. Officially, she moved to Queensland. Unofficially, she vanished under a pile of her own court fines and social media silence. No one asked where she went. No one missed her. What I'd built with Lily, this family, this new life, it wasn't clean. It wasn't perfect, but it was real. And that made it better than anything I'd had before. Late one night, I stood out back holding Jessie while Lily fed the other 2 inside. The stars were out, and the night air was finally cool after weeks of heat. Jessie snuggled into my chest, tiny hands curled, breath soft. I looked down at him and said, "I promise, you'll never grow up wondering who loves you." That was the difference. We weren't playing parts. We weren't pretending. We were living something earned. And when Lily stepped outside, dark circles under her eyes, shirt stained with formula, she leaned her head against my shoulder and whispered, "I'm tired. So am I. But I'd do it all again." I nodded. Me too. Then we stood there in the quiet. No drama. No lies. No hidden cameras or schemes. Just a man, a woman, and the life they built from the rubble. It was a Sunday. Sun low, steaks already off the grill, and the twins chasing Maddie through the backyard with foam swords from the dollar store. Jessie had the plastic crown. Connor had no shirt. Adam was stuffing pebbles into the bird bath like it was treasure. Chaos, but the kind that makes you grateful for earplugs and strong coffee. Shauna sat on the patio, sunglasses on, drink in hand. Rick was at the outdoor bar arguing with Maddie's boyfriend about the best way to install insulation in a crawlspace. Classic rock, never off the clock. Lily leaned over the card table, squinting at her hand. "You're bluffing." I smirked. "Never bluff with family." She narrowed her eyes. "That's what liars say." Shauna chuckled from across the table. "He bluffed the last 3 rounds. Lily threw down her cards. Full house. I laid mine, 4 of a kind. The table erupted. Shauna groaned. "You cheat." Rick muttered, "Knew it." And Lily looked at me deadpan. "Divorce." We all laughed real loud. From the belly laughter. The kind you don't fake, the kind you can't force. And right then, Shauna leaned in, smirking like the devil herself. "She's cheating," she whispered, just loud enough for me to hear. For a second, everything froze. I didn't smile, didn't laugh, just stared at the cards. My body stiffened the way it used to, back when everything was breaking. PTSD doesn't always come with flashbacks. Sometimes it just rides in on a single word. But then Lily tossed a popcorn kernel at Shauna and said, "Good, I better cheat." The moment passed. I exhaled. Not a shallow breath, one of those deep ones, where the tension in your shoulders leaves all at once and you remember where you are. I looked around at my life, my real life. Maddie leaning against the fence, laughing at her little brothers. Rick chases Jessie around the grill. Lily rolled her eyes as she gathered the cards. And me? I wasn't the man who got cheated on anymore. I wasn't the man who took a punch and had to crawl back up, bleeding pride and broken ribs. I was the man who built something better, not perfect, not quite, but real. Messy, earned, and honest. Bridget had been gone for years now. Last I heard, she was still chasing money and burning bridges. But that was her path. Mine was here, not in revenge, not in resentment, in redemption. I walked to the pool's edge, sat down, and dipped my feet in the water. The same water where Lily had pulled me in years ago. The same place Maddie had learned to swim. The same spot where, one summer night, I held my infant sons under the stars and made a promise I hadn't broken. Lily came over, sat beside me, shoulder against mine. "You okay?" she asked. I nodded. Where'd you go just now? Just full circle. She reached over, took my hand, and said nothing. Didn't need to, because sometimes healing doesn't come in fire or speeches. Sometimes it shows up in foam swords, overcooked ribs, and a card game surrounded by people who actually show up every damn day. And for the first time in a long, long time, I wasn't looking back.